What's going on, people? Welcome to Live Palace News. Starting a week off after a draw against Brighton, talking all the latest with Palace. There's some transfer rumours. What's happening with Selhurst Park? Is there going to be a final played at Selhurst Park? And also, we'll be talking about VAR. Were we lucky? And what do we think about VAR? As always, we want you to get involved. So if you're watching on replay, make sure to leave your comments in the comment section down below and leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy the content. It takes a second of your time and helps us out massively. And if you're watching it live, great. Send in your comments through the live comment section and we'll be reading them out throughout the show. If you have any questions, send them through as well. We'll read them out. But T, how you feeling, man? Point against Brighton, starting a week like that. Are you happy? Are you happy? Or are you just all right? Whatever. It is what it is.
I would just say satisfied. Take it and move forward.
Yeah, you just take the point and move forward. There's nothing really much to smile about. Well, to be fair, there is a few things to smile about. VAR, which we'll talk about later on in the show, because of the fact of how we managed to get the point. Should we have even got the point in the first place, which makes it even more funnier. True. Now that we're the side benefit from it. But look, let's start off with the first bit of news, and this is the transfer rumor. So we're starting the transfer rumors already. What, February? One day before Valentine's Day?
Right, real early.
It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And the first player that we're going to be talking about today is the Celtic forward Furuhashi, the 28-year-old. According to Football Insider, Palace are keeping tabs on him, potentially ahead of the summer window. T, 28 years old. When you look at the stats, I'll be honest, they are exciting. They are exciting.
Goals.
I believe he's got about 19 goals in 21 games. 21 games that he started in the Scottish League. Of course, we've seen Edward also come from the same team as well. According to Who Scored, his strengths are finishing. There's various other strengths as well, such as holding onto the ball, free balls, long shots. So we look at the strengths. Sounds exciting. The goals adding up. But for you, I'm pretty sure, I know you watch your football, but I'm pretty sure have you heard of him before, this rumor?
I have heard of him. Of course you
have. That's why we have T here, because he's heard of every
But the only reason why I really heard of him was because shortly after he made the move to Celtic, I saw him play in a Europa League match for him. That's how
European football on his belts as well. So that's positive. But look, as you've heard of him, and from what I've said as well, he scores goals. 20 years old, that's the bit of questionable mark. I'm not too sure. Maybe we do need a bit more experience. You can argue that. But for you, would you be happy for this? I mean, we do need another forward. He's mainly a striker, which we do need another striker. So that's positive. Can also play on the left wing, on the right wing as well. Would you want something like this to happen? The player that's a bit more in his prime rather than the usual approach that we've been doing since Vieira joined in?
Man, this is a hard one to tell. I mean, I think everybody knows how things have gone so far with our striker that we've gotten from the Scottish Premier League prior. Not saying that he's not good, not saying that he won't come good, but, the Furuhashi kid, he's 28 years old, so he's on the older side. He's small. He's only 5'7". I'm not sure how many meters that is.
Something different. That's
he'll definitely be something different. He'll definitely be something different. My wonder is if he can really be a center forward in the Premier League. You don't see too many guys that size. He's only 140 pounds. He's on the smaller side. He seems like build wise, he's similar to the Mitoma guy at Brighton as far as his build. But I don't know, man. I don't really know how to feel about this one. I mean,
well, if you're talking about improvements, I'll take him over the likes of JP. I'll say that. I'll take it because, as you're saying, the smaller side of things. But when you look at the player profile in terms of how he is, he sounds more ideal than the striker that we had playing on the weekend. That's how I see it. And saying that, look, people are going to say he's a Farmers League. I understand that. But with Edward, he's also had some good moments. It's not like he's been absolutely horrible for us. I feel
I don't believe so either.
But he has scored goals in the Premier League. So despite him also doing that at Celtic. So just because he plays in the Scottish League doesn't mean that he won't be a success in the Premier League. But of course, it's a different type of profile. Do you think when you look at the likes of Edouard and Mateta, do you see him as a different option to them two? For me, I think he's completely different.
He's definitely a different option for sure. Yeah.
And if you do, don't you think we need a player like that? Because when you look at him, yes, he might be a bit smaller, but we do need someone who's quick on the ball, who can, you can press high. I think tall physical striker. Okay, I understand that every team would want that as a plan B option, but this is the type of player that we need more than what we saw on a weekend. And plus, we need strikers.
I also like his versatility because he can't play on the wing if you need him to. Also,
yeah, left wing, right wing as well.
So he has some good versatility in there. I think then the question becomes for us, what's the price tag going to be like in trying to acquire him? Things like that. If he has interest in coming to us, with the amount of options we have in the attack, So I mean, I think it could be a nice change to, like you said, what we've seen as far as who we deploy in that role as far as the central center forward. But
yeah. Jason says, what is his player profile? We need more recruitment that actually returns some squad improvement. Other than Gay and Anderson, nothing. And more than likely, both will be gone in the summer. So, yeah, he's not a defender. That's the start. We're completely on the opposite end of the pitch as a striker. But yeah, in terms of his profile, he seemed like the smaller option. He doesn't weigh that much. He's also not that tall in height. But as I mentioned as well, his strengths are finishing, which is very, very strong according to who scored. He's holding onto the ball, through balls, long shots. And his weaknesses are aerial duels and passing. I think passing is the slight concern potentially, but aerial
that's probably the biggest concern for sure.
If you're talking about smaller player. So based on that, it seems like he's a faster player, a player that's more comfortable on the ball, that likes to take the shots. And yeah, I think it's something different to what we have right now, even different to Edouard. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about it as well, because I know some of you don't want any other Scottish League players due to what's happened with Edouard, even though me saying that, I don't think Edouard's situation is that bad. He hasn't scored goals this season. He's our second highest goal scorer this season, which is funny enough.
I like the Tillman kid at Rangers. I'll take him for sure. Malik Tillman. I like him.
Okay. I don't... Bro, honestly, I just want to know forward. I want to know forward. That's not Mateta. That's where I stand. Because I don't think he suits our system. I just don't. Even when he scored goals, that's fine. But I think in the long term, he never really. We don't, especially like physical striker. He's not really good with his hold up play as well. So we need another forward, anyways. But yeah, let's read some more comments. Storm says, I really like him, but we signed Edouard from Celtic and he's in reaching new heights. Of course, as I said, there's going to be that Edouard comparison. He is good and all, but we need a right back. We don't really need a right back, in my opinion. I feel like we need a right back, a striker. We need.
Yeah, but it's not like we're saying so if we get this guy, we won't get a right back, though.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case,
they're not exclusive of one another. Yeah,
if that's the case, we might as well forget about it. We can only buy one position, right? Because we need more than one position. I think everyone knows that. Luke says, I would look at Sarr as our token option in the summer. Trust me, Luke, at some point in these Palace news, whilst we build up to the summer, there'll be Sarr that's being mentioned because he always does. I've gone past that stage, man. You can't always be linked with Ismaili Sarr. There's other options there that can play on the left-hand side. You get me? Like, I'm not that fussed by Ismaili Sarr. Passing not good, fits right in the squad. He's a striker, though. That's the thing. He's a striker. Then again, you can make the same comparisons to Edouard. Passing does matter because, well, is it Edouard passing or is his decision making? You can make the argument that passing does matter as a striker.
We're talking about hold up play and link up.
Yeah. Monty says we need a miracle. Yeah, pretty much sums us up right now. We need a miracle. Wow. We need someone to come in and just fit right in. Wow. We need someone to score goals.
Yes,
exactly. But yeah,
we also need consistent service.
By any means, it doesn't mean that
to our strikers too.
Yeah. By the way, by any means, it doesn't mean that we're getting 100%. It's just one of the reports that's come out. So we'll see what happens anyways. But I'm pretty sure you get mentioned once again in some time future. But let's move on to our second bit of news, which is funny enough. And it goes to Selhurst Park. And no, it's not about the development of Selhurst Park. It's about a cup final potentially being held. And that's according to Inside Football that Crystal Palace's Selhurst Park is currently the favourite to host this season's Greek Cup final. T, look, I know we got out the FA Cup and the League Cup, but this might be the final that we've been preparing for. It's going to be at Selhurst Park. Look, of course, as a business, in terms of business, this is great. You know, you're selling out Selhurst Park to host a cup final. But I'm just thinking, imagine this was Palace and we had to go to Greece to play our FA Cup final. I'm not too sure if Greek fans would be excited about this, especially the core fans traveling all the way from Greece to Selhurst Park, not even Wembley, to Selhurst Park to see potentially Olympiacos or PAOK or one of them big Greek teams play in the cup final. But for you, it's good. It's good. I feel like for me, anyways, it's good that if it does happen in terms of business prospect, we're selling out Selhurst Park to a cup final. Of course, we get a bit of money, but it's a strange thing to happen. I mean, that's something that I couldn't even make up.
It's one of those things, D, that it's one of the reasons why we're trying to do the redevelopment of the main stand as it is. You know, you want to be a more attractive ground to host these types of games. I mean, normally you would think it'd be matches either for international purposes or, you know, within the FA, but, you know, getting an opportunity to host another league's championship is their cup championship's pretty good. I mean, and who knows what it might do for our relationship with some of those teams over there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's some good talent over there in the Greek league.
It's not the Lions that we were expecting, or
nah, not that.
So we're gonna have,
you know, you gotta take what you can get. Panathinaikos, teams like Panathinaikos are legit. You know what I'm saying? Olympiacos, those are
legit. More legit than Lyon.
Isn't that where we got? Where did we get? What team did we get? Luca from? He was over there in the Greek league, wasn't he?
Yeah, so
it was Olympiacos, right?
I think it's there in the cup, anyways. So yeah. Well, potentially you could host this, and then Luca jumps in and then flies back. You know,
take them. Drop us a little bit of bread and take them with you.
Exactly. But look, potentially the Greek Cup final. I don't know when. Could be hosted at Selhurst Park, but we'll keep you guys updated about that as we hear more from it. And that's according to Inside Football. So yeah, that'll be something different anyway. Something to look forward to. Maybe if we can get some tickets to go and watch it as well, which I don't know how the ticketing will work. Let's move on to the final bit of rumor. This gives not rumor, final bit of news / talking point. And this gives me a smile to my face because of the fact that it happened to them. And there's been a lot of talking point this weekend, and let's talk about VAR. So, of course, some of you may have seen the image. There's been reports that's come out after the Brighton game saying that goal should have actually not been ruled as offside. Because as you can see the line, it's not the greatest quality of image, but as you can see from the line, Joe Ward, I believe it's not Joe Ward that didn't play. I can't tell who it is, but anyways, that player that's the line that's drawn from. It's the wrong player. There's a player right behind him that you can argue that the line should have initially been drawn with that player. So technically, Brighton's goal should have stood. They should have had a goal, especially in the first half. Now, the reason why this gives me a smile on my face is the fact it's happened to Brighton, which is great.
And it happened in our favor.
That we got a point. But T, talking about just general VAR, what do you make of the whole situation? Because for me, it's not the technology. End of the day, there are people drawing the lines. Do you get it? I don't know how you can't spot that there's another player behind him that's standing further back. The goal should have stood for Brighton. And that's not even debatable. It should have. They got it wrong. But for you, VAR, where do you stand with it? Do you think it's a case of, you know, it's not going to work due to technology? Is it the refs? For me, it's the refs. The refs in this league are not good enough. It wasn't only this decision. There were other decisions about VAR that were pathetic. West Ham, they handballed it. I think it was Suchek that went on the floor against Chelsea and literally handballed the ball away. And they didn't spot that. So for me, it's not the technology, it's the referees. And VAR should stand. But some of these referees, we need to move on and bring in better quality refs. I think that's where the problem lies. But for you, T, I'm pretty sure you was happy as I was seeing that because, of course, it was against Brighton and they're now frustrated that they didn't get the win.
Mhm.
But with VAR, do you have any hopes in the future that it could work out? Because so far it hasn't really, has it?
The thing about something like VAR, and I think the only way you're gonna see this whole thing play out, you either got to scrap it or you got to change it. You have to. I mean, the thing about it is, every single thing, like in sports, in professions, in organizations, year by year, you do an analysis, an overall analysis of your infrastructure. So I'm sure the Premier League does this with all their things. VAR needs to be analyzed, and they either need to scrap it or they need to make it better. Period. Like, you need to. First of all, it's always weird to me. Why do they always do the lines on an angle? It's like, if you really want to know who's behind who, we should get a line that's even with the play. You never get a good sense of it when you're
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
at an
yeah. It's always
angle.
an angle, but
It's
then
always at
again,
an angle, like, that's stupid to me.
yeah,
I
I
think
guess
they
I can
just,
add that. I guess in the technology side of things, maybe more camera angles.
bro,
I
you
think that's
have to.
where the
You
technology can
have
improve.
to.
But for me, it's just the referees. I mean,
Well,
there's
that
only so
too. I
much the
mean,
technology can do.
we all know the quality of the officiating in the Premier League is absolutely terrible. Like, and like, I feel like the Premier League should be ashamed, to be honest with you, to put out the quality of officiating that they do. These dudes are bad, and they're bad often, and it's not even it, and everybody knows it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they should just be better, and it's just, it's crazy that this high quality, the best league in the world, supposedly, you got the best players, but you can't get the best officials.
Yeah. Look, for me, there's multiple things that you can look at. VAR technology isn't a problem for me, especially when you look at that, because it's just the basics. You didn't spot another player that was behind the player that they initially marked, and they got it wrong, and that was on the referees. And another thing is that you can look at is the refereeing quality. Forget about the technology, the refereeing quality. The refereeing quality, forget about VAR, in this league is not good enough. It isn't. And one way that they could potentially change that is bring in more ex-pros. Create a route. Look, I'm not saying Zaha wants to be a referee, because there's going to be pros that's on a high level that wants to leave football behind, that doesn't want to get involved. But there will be some semi-pro or some professionals that played in lower league levels that want to become referees. Give them better support. Try bring the players that have played the game officiate the game. For me, that helps, because clear and obvious. It's such a, you can argue it's such a generic term, but it should literally be clear and obvious. I'm not even talking about the offside rule here. There's so many times where the clear and obvious mistakes. The West Ham one was a clear and obvious mistake. The West Ham player went down to the ground and pretended he was a goalkeeper. He
Oh,
pretended he was a goalkeeper, and managed to get
Diogo
away with it.
Jota versus us. We play
Yeah, but
Liverpool.
that's not on the technology. That's on the refs. How
That's
can
what I'm
he
saying.
not
That's just
spot
like
that?
a bad call. Like, this.
And it comes to me, and plus there's like 3-4 people in that room, plus the referees on the pitch, plus the linesman. Like, how can everyone at home see these decisions, but 6 professional referees can't? It baffles me. But the Premier League, well, Howard Webb, anyways, he came into the job. He's got a big task in hand. But VAR is a point that needs to be improved on. And I think the main way you improve it is with the technology side of things, maybe add different camera angles, but it's just the referees. The referees have to be more competent. It's absolutely pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. It worked in our favor, but it could also work against us as well.
And
And
I
it's a
think
bit
it's another
scary.
thing. I think it'd be another thing too, to utilize the technology in a way where the teams themselves can call on it to be used. Because I think there are a lot of times when there are questionable actions or questionable moments in games and the VAR doesn't get used. And it's kind of like, I'm sure teams be like, hey, we want that to be reviewed. At least just give it once per game to a team. You know what I'm saying? Just because there are times when it's not implemented correctly. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's the VAR official who's saying, hey, this needs to be reviewed, or deciding to review things. I think there needs to be some augmentations there too.
Yeah. There's been that talk whether they should introduce 3 challenges that you can have per game per team. So if you think a decision, if you want to call a challenge or a decision, then implement that. So let's say Brighton, for example, they could have challenged that decision. They could have said that it was.
They challenged the offside. They call them offside.
I don't. Then again, I don't think.
But then, even in that situation, but even then, even in that situation, they would have challenged it, and they would have lost because the ruling, because the ruling, they said, well, they ruled that he was offside. So, human error is always going to be a thing.
It's going to be a thing, but then there's human error, and then there's all these decisions. The fact that Howard Webb actually apologized to Arsenal, that was another team for offside decision, because once again they couldn't draw a line. Apologized to Brighton as well, and then there's an emergency meeting tomorrow. It pretty much sums it up, and I feel like it'll take a bit of time. But Howard Webb, from what I've heard about him and what he's trying to do, I think he could try and solve it. I think he can, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long it takes and what changes are made to VAR. I don't think VAR is going. I don't think it is because
because the thing is, even before VAR was instituted and put into play, people were complaining about the fact that things were happening and things weren't able to be reviewed. You know what I'm saying? So you're never going to please people 100%. You know what I mean? Because then they're just going to be calling for the fact that, if we had VAR, we would have been able to see that, or that would have got reviewed, and it would have been called a handball, or it wouldn't have been offside, all those things. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't please everybody, no matter how you do it. So,
exactly. Now, let's go through some of the comments that we haven't been able to read so far. Let's go back at that. And talking about that, there's a VAR decision right now at the Liverpool versus Everton game. And
is it?
Yeah. And it seems like they are going to be getting that one right, because it's literally clear and obvious. If they don't get that right, then they might as well literally bin it in the game. But yeah, it seems like Liverpool 2-0 up against Everton, which is probably a good result for us, the way things are standing. But look, some comments to read out on. As always, if you're enjoying the show, make sure to hit the like button. It takes a second of your time, and subscribe to not miss out on future Palace content. Jude says, "D man, you're way too biased towards Eddie. He's a flop. You say how he isn't that bad, and say how he has good moments and he's second top scorer, but don't mention how JP was miles clear last season. Now, last season JP had a good run of form, but I don't think he was miles clear. I mean, in terms of goal tally, let me just try to find it. But do you think JP was miles clear last season already? Because I'm biased.
No.
Apparently. Huh?
No.
You don't?
No.
The thing is, JP scored in big moments. That's why
JP had a decent little run of form, but he wasn't miles clear for him all year long. No way. If he was miles clear, but he would have more goals
last season as well. That's what I think as well.
Honestly, he didn't have more goals than Edouard last year. How's he miles clear?
You can say that I'm biased or whatever. Like you could think that, but honestly, Mateta is not cut for the system. He isn't.
I mean, if bias is believing that Edouard is better than Mateta, fine. I think everybody has their opinion. But saying something like Mateta was miles clear of Edouard last year, that's just not true. Like,
I think it's the goals that Mateta scored. People could think that, but even now this season, that's what I'm saying. Even this season, when we talk about Edouard, he's the second highest goal scorer. No one mentions that. It's just the agendas. You get it? Like it's simple to say Edouard ain't good enough. Mateta, but the facts are, Edouard, for me, he still scored 5 goals this season. And you're not an awful player if you're scoring 5 goals this season. How many has Wilf got? What, 7 or 8? So
6.
like 3 more than Edouard.
6.
Now saying that, I've been on here saying the same things. Lately, his decision making is letting him down 100%. But for me, from what I've seen, if you put him in front of goal and you don't get him involved as much in the build-up play, I think he still scores goals. He does, but he doesn't. We haven't put him in opportunities like that. But now, JP, if you're that tall, I expect you to be better physically, stronger physically. I expect you to win more headers. Now, he doesn't do that. And I've said this as well. The great thing about this is you can look back You can go and watch the deadline day show when we signed JP on a permanent deal. And I said it then. I don't know if we rushed it. And it's proven out to be that we have. For me, anyways, JP isn't Vieira's type of striker. So for me, Edward suits Vieira's football way more. And saying that, he needs to improve on certain aspects of his game. But he's also scored goals this season. He hasn't had a horrendous season. He just had a bad run of games lately. But yeah, it's an interesting look at it because people don't realize that Edward does score goals, which is
a big part of it is I think people sometimes get upset with Edward and what they're seeing from him because they know his potential and they know his abilities. You know what I mean? And that's why they really get down on because you know how good that dude can be. You know what I'm saying? When he gets it right and when he's on. So I think that's why a lot of times he gets the stick that he does is because people know how good he can be.
Yeah. And it's just the basics, isn't it? Like when you look at it, it's just make the pass, Edward. Like make the pass or take the shot.
Just shoot the ball. Yeah. I think sometimes he's overly cerebral. He's thinking too much or waiting for the perfect moment for too long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jason says back to Hodgson style play since World Cup restart. Now, the football hasn't been great in terms of the type of football that we've been playing. But for me, I don't know about you, T, but for me, we've had to change our style of play because of the games that we had coming up and the fact that we didn't have the players to suit that high-pressing football. Yeah. So, yes, it has gone back to a Hodgson style of football. You can make that argument. But there was a reason for that. There was no point playing that high-pressing football and not changing up when it wasn't working against tough oppositions. We would have picked up less points. That Hodgson style of football that we went back to, that people say anyways, has made us pick up points against Brighton. Look, people mention Brighton and us. I get the rivalry, but Brighton have been the better side this season. They are 6th, I believe, or 7th. So if we picked up a point against Tottenham, would we not be happy? Let's just say that. We would be happy. So we picked up a point against Brighton, a point against Newcastle, Man United, with that style of football. So, yes, we haven't won games, but we've managed to pick up points. And there's no point of playing a high-pressing system when you don't have the players because it clearly wasn't working.
Or playing against a team like Brighton who wants you to press them, that literally plays the way that they play to play around the press. Like, that's literally what they do. How about we give some credit to a manager who's able to be pragmatic enough to change it up and still get results? Exactly. How about that? Because we could be back in the ages of Roy Hodgson where there's only one way that we could play. We knew coming out that we're only going to play one way every single match. Maybe you should be appreciative of having a manager who has the ability to switch it up, have his team play in a different style, and still get results for the team, for the club. Like
we've had to
I think that goes a long way.
I don't think T, you are. I don't think I am. I don't want to see this style of football in a long run. But there's being sensible as well. We've been sensible with our approach in these games. We've had to go back and try to get a point, try to defend more than anything else. And it has worked to an extent. Yes, we haven't won games, but we managed to pick up points in games that many of us wasn't expecting.
We played 4 matches. We played 4 matches. 4 matches against 3 teams in top 6, 7, top 6, top 7, and we've only lost 1 of them.
We've seen both styles of football. We've seen the high pressing last season, and we've seen the more defensive approach this season, especially lately. But we've seen that Vieira does want to play high pressing football because when he did have his players, he went high pressing. We were playing exciting football, possession based, high pressing. But this season, we haven't had the players to play that style of football. So in the summer, if we do strengthen the squad and if we do bring in quality enough players, I'm pretty sure we'll go back to that. But there's no point right now trying to do something which won't work, which wasn't working before. But look, we have signed new midfielders. Maybe we do go back to the high pressing with maybe Lokonga starting or Hamada starting. Maybe it does happen. But saying that, there's still weaknesses. There's still that right back problem. There's still that striker problem that we're talking about. There's Wilf out and Jeffrey Schlupp starting on the left. There's still weaknesses in the squad. Yep. So until next season, pretty much, until the summer, I feel like the style of football isn't that important because we haven't got the place.
The result is what's important at this point.
And yeah, it's all about strengthening more than anything at this point. A pond with no oxygen. That's us at the moment, says Luke. Jason says it's like arguing with a goat burger and a cow shit burger is better than the other. Both are rubbish, so it doesn't matter. Luke says, "Is it me? Palace always hit a run of form around this time of the season, like last season." Well, funny enough, last season we probably we were struggling around these stages, man.
Yeah, and we were
Can't
better,
remember.
and
We had an
we're
epic cup run.
actually point wise, we're actually better off than we were
Yeah,
last
yeah.
season.
We weren't actually like it's not like we went on a good run of form last season around this stage.
But I
Just the
mean, you
FA
got to
Cup
think about it,
that
man.
helped.
It's a 30+ game season. There's going to be ebbs and flows. Like we're not a traditional powerhouse club. So, those long s- strings of wins, like that's not as much of a practical thing. You know what I'm saying? So, in a season like the Premier League season, you're gonna have your ebbs and flows, your ups and downs, man. And I mean, if our downs is 3 points out of four matches with some top 6 teams, I'll take that now.
Yeah. Patrick also says Vieira's doing the best he can with the squad that he has. Expect them more with our current injuries is foolish. Yeah, even against Brighton, we had players out. Even with those players available, the likes of Zaha, Anderson, and Richards, there's still weaknesses in
Yeah,
midfield that we need to strengthen on.
and I mean, think about it, D. There was a time when when the thing to say was, if Wolf doesn't play, we can't get a result at all. We lose without Wolf.
Now
We're
that's
getting
changed.
results. We're getting
Yeah.
results without him. Like that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I understand some of our fan base, because y'all don't recognize the progression. All they do sometimes is harp on some of the bad things, or the things that seem bad, and it's like, you know from where we were to where we are is a pretty significant distance, if I'm being honest. Do we need more? Yes, but I think we're doing pretty good with what we've got at this point.
Yeah. Louis is asking us, reckon he's a Vieira type striker. I think that's going back to the start of the show when we talk about Furuhashi. Well,
I
based
don't
on the
know.
player profile, it seems like more than the option that we have, that he could be more like a Vieira type striker in terms of he's very strong at finishing. He's a bit smaller, so you expect him to be a bit more agile, a bit more fast. But yeah, he's a bit small as well. So we'll see. Anyways, we'll see what happens with him, because I'm pretty sure we'll talk about him if anything does get more
Right.
serious. But
Yep.
still early days. But yeah, we'll be linked with him. Trey says Vieira has adopted his style to what he has available better than any other manager in the 21st century. Yeah, he's adapted. I don't know about any other manager in the 21st century.
Well, his pragmatism reminds me kind of like the way um Jesus, his name Roma. His name is
Mourinho.
Mourinho. He's very pragmatic. Like Mourinho switches it up based on his opponent, based on scouting, understanding, like the pragmatism. I think when you talk about that, Mourinho's probably one of the best, period, at like adjusting to the situations of who you have and who you're going up against. So I do give Vieira credit for that. And
Let's
a
just
lot of
say,
that is just knowledge of the game too.
yeah, look, for me, I'm not Vieira out. I'm not, because as I mentioned for the points listed as well, we haven't got the squad. We've regressed as a squad this season. I don't care if we signed Decore or Richards. We haven't improved and strengthened in other areas. And two, I've seen Vieira adapting. I mean, it would be foolish for him to play high pressing football. He has changed it up. It's a bit more boring, but he's picked up points here. And until we buy the players, and until he has a fully strength squad, look, I don't know what you really expect, because there are some key weaknesses in the squad. And for me, that changes in the summer. If the board are serious, that changes in the summer. We have to strengthen. There's a lot of players out of contract. You get rid of those players. You try to actually build a squad in quality rather than just having numbers on the squad. Because right now we have a lot of numbers. We have players that's just added up numbers and not quality. So yeah,
Mhm.
for me, I feel like this summer's massive, and we'll see next season. We'll see next season what we can do with Vieira, because I feel like if he does get back, then we'll pick up more points and play exciting football, and everyone will be coming on here talking about, damn, we were unlucky maybe not to win the game, or wow, we control the game well. And that was pretty much a conversation last season. This season, it
Last
hasn't
season.
been,
Yep.
because we haven't got the players. I think it's as simple as that. Luke says, big shout out to our loanees. Yeah, there's a few of them. They're doing well as well. Who stood out for you the most?
It's got to be Jez and Phillips right now.
Yeah, Jez is on fire.
Yeah, Phillips is playing.
Made the argument
Phillips has led Shrewsbury Town to a win in every game he's played in.
Damn.
So
they're doing well. And it's going to be massive for them as well this summer because, as I said, players are out of contract. We need new players, so can they step up to the plate? And I'm excited about Jess. I've been calling for Jess for a long time. I feel like Jess could have played a role this season, in all honesty. But
my hope is that Jez can be more versatile with where he plays. I think that's the thing that's going to help him out the most. Is that he just doesn't allow himself to just only play right wing, because I think that's going to limit his opportunities sometimes.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with Jess and our loanees as well. It's going to be big for them. And Ibue is also out on loan. I'm not too sure how he's doing, but
and we still got guys like Ozo that could step up and be, a part of things.
Yeah, exactly. Ozo, he came on as well. But then again, now we've got midfielders. We'll see what happens. But I feel like Ozo could play a role next season if we get rid of the likes of Luke or Gyro, because he could be a squad option. It can be more of an option coming off the bench. But yeah, even Phillips and all the other players, they're doing well. But then again, realistic expectations for me, they're doing well at lower level. Not every player that can do it at the Championship or League One, League Two will do it in the Premier League. You get it? So we'll see what happens when they come back. Dean saying there's something going on at the club. My son, who works at Copacabana Road, so the training ground, he said that they are cutting back on staff. Interesting. I feel like that's for the whole world right now. It's still business. End of the day, Palace. As much as we talk about it like it's not a business, it's still business, and probably they probably have to cut back. They have to cut back to balance the numbers if the demands aren't there as much. Jude says Phillips looks mental at the moment. Jason says, why do we need patience? Brighton has so far exceeded Palace already in the Premier League. They play interesting football and we are rubbish.
Well, if you think about it, Jason, Brighton finished 15th and 16th under Potter first 2 years. So this isn't just them out of nowhere. It's been they had to build that up, man. Like that squad was built up through that process, man. So it's not like they came out of nowhere. To
benefit Jason's comment, they did come after us. They did get promoted after us, and they seem like they're in a better position. But for me, it's not
a lot of it could boil down to investment too. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I mean, if they had the money to invest in the squad, along with a motivated coach who's able to build talent, I mean, it makes sense why they're at this point. I mean, unfortunately, that's not our story at the moment, man. But
and they're selling players as well. Let's not forget, it's not like Brighton are just bringing it. They're selling players and selling managers and the whole backroom stuff,
and they're setting them up for the future.
We haven't reached that stage yet, and I'm not too sure people want to see that stage of Getty leaving or Elise leaving or whatever. I don't know. Some people might do, but we haven't reached that stage yet. For us, it's just investment rather than recruitment. Our recruitment's fine. It's just investment. We just need to spend a bit more money and bring in more players, because so far recruitment has been fine. But Brighton are on a different path to us due to the players leaving, manager leaving. We haven't had that yet. We haven't had the likes of the new players that's joined the club leaving for a higher price. So Brighton has got that benefit of the doubt. Maybe we'll go the same approach. We'll see. We'll see in the summer. Maybe we'll sell some of these players that I mentioned. And then again, we can compare the teams like that. They're on a different wavelength to us. Not like they're way better than us or way ahead, but they've had to get rid of their manager. They've had to sell their players, some key players like Bissouma as well. And they replace them well. So we'll see what happens with Palace. Maybe we do the same. Maybe we get rid of the likes of Elise, bring in another better wide player, or Gay and bring in another quality defender. It's hard.
You gotta use that money to invest.
Our football is awful. It's the worst in the league. Yeah, right now it is.
Right now,
I agree. Not worse in the league, but our football is
not worse. But it's not pretty. But look who we got out there. I mean,
exactly. And I feel like our ambition is higher than 12th in general. Maybe this season it ain't. That's due to a lack of investment. But in general, I'm pretty sure the club probably wants to finish in the top 10 and become a solid top 10 club.
But if a 12th place finish gets us into a position where we can have a good summer, bring in much needed players, and roll over the squad and get rid of the dead wood in order for us to be higher than 12th and or to be top 10 next year, I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying? Like I think sometimes people fail to think long term and they only think about this year right
Our
now.
process
And
ain't
that's
done, by the way. As I'm saying, look at some of the
I
players
think
that we
that's
still
I
got on
think
our
that's
squad.
part of
We
I think
haven't
that's
got rid
part
of
of
these players.
fans. Like fans want it right now. They want the team to win right now. They want us to be top 10 right now. But it's like some of it, man, you got to be okay with your team building for the future, building for the long term, and you know, understanding that we still starting Joel Ward at right back a lot of games. We just started
Still got to find
Tompkins
a
at
former
center.
right back as
We,
good
we
as he's
yeah
been. I
yeah
mean, we
we
started
just started
Tompkins at centre back.
we just had to
Right.
start James Thompson. The person that has the most starts on our team right now is Jordan Ayew. Come on, man. You got to keep things in perspective, dude.
Yeah.
Like for
Saying
real.
that the club definitely need to improve in the summer. They do need to improve. I feel like this season we didn't, but the ambition, I'm pretty sure. You know what? I think it's purely, you know what it is? I think they're just waiting on contracts to run out, just like they did in the first season that Vieira came in. And it gives them a bit more flexibility in terms of wages, moving players off the books and bringing in better players. So I think this season they did bring in players, by the way. Decore is a very good signing. Rich is a very good signing. The problem is they didn't bring enough. So I believe in the summer we're just going to get rid of some of these players, which we should do. The likes of there's lots of players out of contract, and maybe we can do a video about that. And then we bring in better quality players. And I think it's easier to get rid of players that are out of contract, especially if they're not playing right on form. The likes of, for example, Luka. Maybe Luka doesn't want to leave, but when he's out of contract, then it's easier. He doesn't have any other option. He can.
No other option. Yep.
Yeah. Look, let's wrap this up now. We've managed to talk 40 minutes about various different topics. Of course, the main news was the transfer rumor, VAR, and also Selhurst Park potentially hosting a cup final. Doesn't include Palace in it. So we'll see what happens there. But look, Jude says, who would you rather keep at the club, regardless of price, Eze or Gallagher? Well, Gallagher's not at the club, but in terms of who, I guess he's asking who would you rather have.
So who would you rather have at the club? Okay.
Yeah. And as I mentioned this comment, there's a comment down below saying, "Get over Gallagher, please. He's not the Messiah."
He's not.
But who would I rather keep? They're two different players. It's very hard for me to say.
But that's just pushing the narrative that's been there ever since Gallagher started the show.
Ed is like a 10, Gallagher's like an 8, so it's hard. But who would you rather keep going, T?
I'd rather keep Eze.
Yeah, probably Ebbs. When Ebbs is on form, he destroys.
When Ebbs is on form, and he has guys that can perform at a high level around him, he's a different player. But when he has to make up for the inaccuracies and the ineptness of players around him, that's when it starts to be tough for him.
Yeah, it does. But look, let's wrap. If you have enjoyed the show, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to not miss out future Palace content. As always, we'll be back throughout the week for the previews, for more Palace news, and way more Palace content in general. So that's it from me and T. And until next time, up the Palace.
Up the Palace.